So I just wanted to make a response video to my two favorite uh, Mensheviks, uh, Garland Nixon and Dr. Tony Monteiro. Just saw your video on, you know, the are the pitchforks coming? Is the guillotine being sharpened? And what is a revolution? Um, up front, I guess I would just say, well, any real revolution involves, the working class of a country overthrowing the bourgeoisie, the rich cunts, those who own the means of production, how much is produced, what's produced, how it's distributed. And, we can see in the U.S. that, it's ridiculous. The cost of living, I estimated it a good year ago, the cost of groceries compared to here in the former Soviet Union was 70% higher. It's actually probably higher than 70% in terms of speculation because, what is the real cost of food production? Either here in Russia or there in the USA. I highly doubt it's, uh, the price at which they're, putting on items on the shelves. So bread, and peace and land and freedom, as Lenin, put forward, the Bolsheviks put forward, more than 100 years ago here in Russia, in, you know, Petersburg, Petrograd, Lenin, which became Leningrad. Um, and In terms of, Dr. Monteiro, saying a revolution is, peaceful, nonviolent, um, that's bullshit. Maybe at first, Ernest Mandel, I believe, wrote, the October Revolution. Fewer people died in that than what is it? A weekend, of car crashes and DUIs and whatnot, or stabbings over dice games. If we're talking about Chicago, Nolans, etc. But what followed though was relatively bloody political repression, and then bloody war of the classes here, which ended up killing or murdering about 3 million to start, and hundreds of thousands of civilians, peasants, Jews, workers, communists, and then we killed the those who would the bootlickers, basically the pigs, the officer scum, the Chads and the Kyles. We tied a block to their leg and threw them into the fucking canal here because they were rapists and baby murderers, or murderers. So it's, don't kid yourself. Any sort of social revolution is going to involve some level of civil war. I had a comrade who said, well, if the United States were to go communist, let's call it, let's be honest and say communist, that is, if the working class of the United States were to impose a dictatorship of the working class upon the ruling class, upon the capitalists, that would solve, the problems of the world, because no longer would, the Hillary Clintons or the Barack Obamas or the Lindsey Grahams and all of those freaks, who they were, and those who they work for, would not be able to create a Syria, failed state on purpose around the world, or starve people, through bureaucratic means, or provoke wars and say, oh, we're innocent, like as in Ukraine. So yeah, that's true as far as that goes. But if you think for a moment, given the bloody, twisted, barbaric history of the USA and the Americas by extension, I mean, look at Jesus Christ, look at Mexico, at what the descendants, the mestizo descendants of the Aztecs, the criminals among them are doing. mass axe murders, chainsaws. They use technology to, further the barbarism. Albeit on a small scale compared to, the U.S. Freaks. But uh, you know, any sort of revolution in the Americas is going to be bloody. Now it can be more bloody or less bloody, but given my experience in my adult life and living in the shithole of Chicago and looking at all of the criminals there, well, they, uh, they're sneaky and nasty and unprincipled and violent, but there's a limit. They're businessmen, quote unquote, right? So they're not like me. I want a thoroughgoing, bloodletting of that 10%, as Zinoviev said here in Leningrad, 100 years ago, that 10%, had to be shot. Well, he said they're not our concern. He was being polite, but later on, he and the Petrograd Soviet said, okay, let's arm the working class in the streets here and just shoot down anyone who is, petit bourgeois, middle class, because they are fucking, by and large, overwhelmingly counter-revolutionary filth. The fifth column. And, the Committee of Public Safety, the Cheka from Moscow, etc., vetoed that. And I believe the Cheka from even here in Petrograd, Leningrad vetoed that. But it got to that point. So the point is, America's even more cowboy and more savage and, more capitalist. And, to that extent, any sort of revolution, it always involves civil war. The other side always resists, and then our side, the masses, the workers, have to stamp out that resistance, just like they stamp out our movements. So, it's, as Marx and Engels said, probably 150 years ago, have you seen a revolution, gentlemen, to the anarchists, or, for that matter, to the Mensheviks and the liberals? Have you seen a revolution, gentlemen? It's the most violent authoritarian thing you will ever see. Cannons, rifles, bombs, grenades. And that's what it's going to be. If I don't know. I'm still not optimistic that America can pull off a revolution, given all of the barbaric and merchant trash that have, been recruited to America in the last 200 years. But, maybe. There are more proletarian, I guess, masses now in America than there are, the, I don't know, criminal. It's hard to say. I guess I'd have to do a closer examination, but even there, it's like masses in motion. You can't, make predictions, and things don't fall into place according to numbers. So yeah, it's a work in progress. But my prediction is, any sort of revolution of the classes, anything else is bullshit. Your polite middle classes, with liberal reforms, that's I don't care about that, and I don't think we'll see, how the majority of people respond to, all of the left liberal wanks, the new AOCs, or reinvented AOCs, or, whatever the fuck, comes up like that. Can the ruling class offer reforms like Roosevelt did? I doubt it. I'm not sure, but, I guess, probably a certain wing of society will try to do that. But, these scum, the Obamas, the Pelosi's, the Schumers, who's the other one, the Bidens, and their ilk, even the Trumps, and, do they have anything real to offer the masses? Can Trump pull off, a sort of shitty right-wing New Deal, mafia New Deal? Will the ruling class go for that? And, will that be enough to placate, what proportion of the country would have to be placated? How long could you keep the manure contraption rolling with how much, profit stolen from the masses, the working class? So, um, we'll see. I think, there may be an attempt to make an offer to the masses to try to placate them because, the ruling class, there's about to be more assassinations. I mean, another bloodsucker was stabbed by a worker, I guess yesterday. To me, that's just, on a moral level, wonderful. These bloodsuckers deserve to be killed in cold blood. But that's not a revolution. Those are acts of terrorism, and I'm for, basically, as Trotsky said, the bill we have is much, much greater. It's millions of these bloodsuckers, not one or two. It's the complete and total overthrow of their system of murder. Um, you know, so we'll see.